Make up mind. Fight.
That's right, you read that title correctly. There are real, active injustices happening all around us at all times, and I, a 26-year-old man with a job and bills, am instead taking it upon myself to rant about characters from the Super Mario series that make me irrationally angry. Mario has sort of a reputation for being overly sanitized, brand safe, and family friendly at points, especially in more recent years, so I wanted to see if I could track down and list some of my favorite examples of more caustic characters in the series that might ring a bit of a negative reaction out of players, or least favorite, because some of these guys really boil my blood. I should note, 1, that I know none of this is at all serious, and that none of it matters. This is all in good fun, and 2, that this isn't gonna be some surface level observation video, where I'm gonna complain about some random character in like a Mario spin-off wasting a roster slot or anything. You're not gonna hear me talk about Pink Gold Peach or Baby Rosalina in this video. I am a certified Nintendo adult who has been playing this series for my whole life, and I've made quite a few obscure Mario enemies in my day to rant about, and I mean obscure. So sit back, relax, and enjoy watching me tear some ones and zeros from children's games to shreds. Let's dive in. So let's start out with the whole reason I wanted to make this video to begin with. Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 are very light on both story and new characters despite their larger than life scale, save for the obvious introductions of Rosalina and her Lumas, and in general, these games are more focused on the splendor and whimsy of their space setting than they are on imparting any sort of deeply resonant characterization. Any new NPCs you talk to in these games who aren't space goddesses are likely only there to introduce a mission or new mechanics, and among these types of characters, there is a clear pick for my personal most reviled. The Gearmos from Mario Galaxy are just the worst. Whenever you see one of these little bastards show up, you know that you're in for a bad time. Taking the form of small, gear-headed robots that are deliberately given the personalities and resemblances of cranky old ladies, the Gearmos typically only exist to provide short offshoot optional objectives hidden within other missions, and more often than not, they are some of the most frustrating missions in the Mario Galaxy duology. Generally, they tend to be literal chores set against the backdrop of the series' more industrial levels, using bombs to destroy hunks of rusty trash, using fireballs to eliminate boxes, collecting a certain number of purple coins on a linear slide that you can't turn around on if you miss any, etc. Now, if the thought of taking time out of your splendorous deep space journey to do unpaid labor for geriatric robots didn't already sound enticing enough for you, you'll be happy to know that these missions quite frequently boast very strict time limits and very strict failure conditions as well. Often, you'll be given just enough time or collectibles to complete each of the Gearmos objectives, and the time limits tend to be so strict that there's typically only 1 or 2 very rigid paths to victory, and it's up to you to figure out those paths. Even though you're literally doing the Gearmos jobs for them, they're also alarmingly unappreciative should you come up even 1 or 2 boxes or trash heaps or coins short, literally placing more down for you again and forcing you to retry from scratch should you fail. I'm sorry, I thought we were trying to clear out some trash, not stomp around in our clown shoes. Making this even more frustrating is the Gearmos' general personalities and design, which I personally have always found to be really unappealing. Again, they're deliberately designed and characterized to resemble cranky elderly women, and their names in most of the series' non-English localizations reflect this directly. I'm definitely not against old ladies, I've known some really cool ones in my day, but when playing this elaborate and wondrous spacefaring adventure, the last thing I want to do is stop down and get chewed out by a robotic elderly women for my generation not working hard enough or whatever. I'm literally doing your job for you, just sign up for your AARP check and leave me alone. Like I said at the top of this section, whenever you see a Gearmo in Mario Galaxy 1 or 2, you should already know you have a very frustrating couple of minutes ahead of you. They're the mascots for the obnoxious secondary objectives in these games, and all in all, if I'm going to be doing a side mission for a wacky character in Mario Galaxy, I'll take the chimp any day. I love the chimp. Moving back a couple years from Mario Galaxy, we have Super Mario Sunshine, a game that's entire being could very generously be described as polarizing. I actually really like Mario Sunshine, but I'm also a nostalgia blind 20-something who grew up playing it, so my opinion literally does not mean anything in this context. And while Mario Sunshine's gameplay, general lack of polish, and level design are often its most criticized aspects, people aren't exactly charitable to its story either. Super Mario Sunshine rather famously features full voice acting and fully animated cutscenes, and while they aren't exactly Metal Gear, they were definitely new for the Mario series at the time of release. It's just a shame that the setup they provide is incredibly stupid. Mario, Princess Peach, and a few Toads arrive on the sun-drenched tropical paradise of Isle Delfino for a much-anticipated vacation, only to find the island overrun with a thick layer of icky paint-like goop. Mario quickly finds a helpful little robot water pump by the name of Flood, and surely through the goodness in his heart and a desire to get his vacation started, he teams up with Flood to clean up the goop. All seems well until they are unceremoniously arrested by the local authorities, which is where my pick for Mario Sunshine comes from. This is gonna sound crazy, but I cannot stand the Pianta legal system. Like, this is the kind of thing that causes hostage negotiations in the real world. Mario is arrested and tried on foreign land for a crime he literally could not have committed, and is forced to spend the duration of his vacation cleaning up the island for the simple transgression of resembling a painting of the assumed culprit. Bear in mind that Mario literally just set foot on Isle Delfino for the first time in his life, and that he's traveling in the company of another kingdom's monarch. Surely things like flight records and goodwill must exist in this universe. It's an absolute show of kangaroo court. The Piantas aggressively push their personal view of the situation onto Mario and company without allowing any sort of interjection or input from them, not even providing Mario the courtesy of a trained defense attorney. Delfino Plaza might seem like a sun-drenched tropical paradise, but make no mistake, this is a police state with a brutal justice system. This is all obviously at least partially facetious. I know none of this is real and it's all just a setup for Mario to run around fun platforming levels while cleaning up goop, but for the Mario series' first attempt at a significant story development in a mainline platformer, they sure did make the setup as needlessly unfair, illogical, and frustrating as possible. At least Mario got his vacation in the end. I would have booked it home ASAP. Let's pivot from mainline 3D Mario platformers for a bit to talk about Luigi's Mansion 3. I like Luigi's Mansion 3. I'd say it's probably my second favorite Luigi's Mansion game. It's got some of the best presentation out of any game on the entire Switch 1, some of the most fun and inventive boss ghosts and puzzles in the series, and an overall incredibly keen eye for detail and polish. However, the reason I say it's only my second favorite game in the series is because, despite all of its great qualities, Luigi's Mansion 3 is incredibly long and very padded. Compared to the breezy replayability of Luigi's Mansion 1, the third game just goes on for what feels like ages in my opinion, especially for a slow-paced, puzzle-oriented game like this, and it leads me to feeling really exhausted at the prospect of ever replaying it again. And while you could blame this padding problem on the game's tremendous floor count or large amount of dialogue, I think there's an additional, much more tangible perpetrator we can point our fingers at.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't like Polterkitty very much. Me and Polterpup, we can hang, but Polterkitty, you'll have to stay in the car. Appearing a small handful of times throughout Luigi's Mansion 3, Polterkitty is the evil feline counterpart to Luigi's companion Polterpup, who exists solely to add runtime to your playthrough of this already 15+ hour game. She'll appear in a cutscene after completing the paranormal pictures and fitness center floors, taking the newly obtained elevator buttons that are required to progress, and smugly walking off with them. Following this, Luigi will have to track her down by using his dark light to expose her trail, leading to a handful of short boss fights. It's not enough to just catch her once though, as once she's seemingly defeated, you'll be revealed to have only pulled off one of her many tails as she flees to another floor, turning this short throwaway battle into a lengthy multi-story endeavor. Because why would you want to progress in the game after defeating a main boss? With perfect tracking or just knowing exactly where Polterkitty is and how to find her, each of these chase sections can take roughly 10 minutes. However, if you're not keen as to the mechanics of her battle or are particularly bad at exploring, you can expect each Polterkitty section to take roughly as long as some of the game's proper unique floors. It is so boring to have to backtrack through previously cleared areas for this stupid cat, all for the reward of claiming something you've already earned through a dedicated real boss battle. The Polterkitty chases aren't exactly difficult or even that time consuming in the grand scheme of Luigi's Mansion 3, but they are so deflating when they happen. You ever have a thing in a game where when it pops up, it just knocks the wind out of your sails and makes you go, oh, alright. Something that you really don't want to do but know is required to progress. That's what the Polterkitty sections are. Just pure unabashed filler that exists to further pad out this already intensely bloated game. These sections are genuinely not necessary, and they could be cut from the game entirely without losing anything. They are complete pace breakers. Also, if I may, I have a cat to annoy me in real life, so I don't need one to annoy me in Luigi's Mansion too. That's a joke. I love you, Sophie. Let's talk about Paper Mario now. This is my favorite game of all time. game. And if you don't know that about me, then hi, I'm Opal Reviews Everything, I have a weird voice, and I really like spicy chicken sandwiches. For real, the original N64 Paper Mario is pretty light on characterization as far as RPGs go. It's much more focused on providing a fun gameplay foundation for a game like this than it is on providing substantial new characters or an in-depth narrative. But luckily, there are still a few stinkers amongst this game's roster of NPCs. We could talk about Chet Rippo and his equally iconic and successful brother Rip Cheeto, two con men in Toad Town who attempt to swindle Mario & Co. out of their coins. However, they both have legitimate utility in certain types of challenge runs, so I struggle to want to count them. There are two proper NPCs that I want to discuss, however, and one is much more substantial than the other. The first is Yaki, a complete throwaway, forgettable character who just annoys me to no extent either way. It's encountered late into Chapter 3, when Mario & Co. have successfully evaded the invincible Tubba Blubba and found refuge in his bedroom. Tubba Blubba himself wanders in for a nap, and Mario's party takes the opportunity to look through a nearby treasure chest. They find out that the key to turning off Tubba Blubba's invincibility can be found in the nearby Gusty Gulch windmill. However, this information is not obtained easily, as the key to open the windmill is actually a living creature by the name of Yaki, a talking key that immediately screams and spills the beans about Mario's plans. This initiates an admittedly fun chase sequence. However, I cannot stand people who are quick to sell others out or can't keep secret, and even though this game's dialogue is entirely text-based with no voice acting, I just know that Yaki's scream is like the most ear-splitting thing ever. I get phantom skin crawls whenever I play this section. Also, I legitimately had no idea about this until researching for this video, but you can actually find Yaki in the Gusty Gulch windmill later in the game after clearing Chapter 3, which is a completely pointless factoid, as you have no reason to ever return to this area later in the game. I thought he was dead after being used as a key, but whatever. But no, the real most hateable character in Paper Mario is encountered 4 chapters later in Chapter 7, also known as Cold Place, or the final traditional chapter in the game. Mario and crew arrive in the peaceful and remote Shiver City, a snowy little community occupied by friendly penguins. They eventually find the penguin mayor's house and are happily welcomed in by the mayor's wife. They then travel into the mayor's quarters, where his seemingly dead body is found. The mayor's wife then wanders in, screams, and grabs the police, and immediately flips on Mario and crew, claiming in no uncertain terms that they barged in unwelcome and that she saw them kill her husband with her own eyes. After she throws out these baseless accusations, Mario and crew are kept from leaving Shiver City until they clear their good name. And even after another potential culprit is found and the mayor is revealed to be alive and well, she still doesn't let up. In the game's ending, she makes a quote-unquote playful jab at Mario being a killer, but you just know that she's the kind of person who would get caught in a lie or being incorrect, and rather than just admitting to it, would just huff and go, well, I think that's ridiculous. I think we've all interacted with these kinds of people in the real world, so it makes the beginning of Chapter 7 in Paper Mario all the more frustrating. The whole penguin murder mystery section is pretty fun and silly, but I cannot stand the mayor's wife either way. You can't accuse Jumpman of being a murderer, come on. For our last game in this video, I want to talk about Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door. TTYD is a good natural endpoint for this video because it's easily the most caustic and confrontational that any Mario game gets in terms of its characterization. This game is like honest in a way that Mario games usually aren't. It's very forthcoming with the fact that some people are just assholes and not everyone has your best interest in mind, and that leads to a lot of dislikable characters. There are quite a few characters in this game who I feel are unlikable on purpose for comedic effect. Lavio and the Pianta lovers come to mind, but I struggle to want to include them in this video because that's clearly what they're designed to do. A character I cannot bestow the same charity to, however, is Lucky, the purveyor of the Happy Lucky Lottery in Rogueport's West Side. If you don't know how this minigame works, you'd be forgiven for thinking it's a simple luck-based lottery. However, make no mistake, this game is a certified scam. Basically, rather than being truly luck-based, the Happy Lucky Lottery instead chooses whether or not the player wins based on how much real-life time has passed since they purchased their in-game ticket, with the grand prize requiring a whopping 335 to 395 real-life days having passed. To get the grand prize as intended, you need to play this single-player RPG for roughly a full calendar year. Oh, but you can just change the system clock, you say, right? Well, no, because if you do this, the game will actually detect it, with Lucky suffering from a full-on breakdown, staging a fake game over, and demanding 500 coins from the player to recoup the lottery's losses and start back up again. Screw that, this guy's running a sham lottery that requires a full year of the player's time, and then he acts like a victim when people try to game the system back. This is why we don't gamble, folks. Also, I feel like if I don't mention General White, people will probably bite my head off. As a character, he's perfectly fine, nothing special, but the story moment associated with him where you have to go on a lengthy fetch quest talking to a ton of random NPCs across the game's entire map looking for him, only for him to be revealed at the very end to have been in his house sleeping the entire time back where you started, is a certified dick move on Nintendo's part. However, it and the lottery we just talked about are both significantly streamlined and cleaned up in the Switch remake, but this is still notoriously one of the worst parts of the GameCube original TTYD. General White didn't even know what was going on either. And to close us out, let's talk about probably the most despicable character in any of the Paper Mario games, and possibly the entire Mario series. If you don't like Vivian, there's something wrong with you. She's a sweet, wholesome, and adorable party member with a heartwarming story, who's legitimately great in battle, and, if I may, is also unambiguously trans. Oh no, we made the video political by saying trans, why do you have to ruin it? Bro, did you not hear the entire Sunshine section earlier? Regardless, if Mario was going to have a trans character, then you know they had to have a hateable transphobic character to balance it out, and they might have succeeded a bit too much on that front, because truly, fuck Beldum. Beldum is a fascinating Mario character, because she's probably the closest that any Mario NPC in the entire franchise gets to being a card-carrying abuser. The scenes with her and Vivian early in the game are legitimately upsetting. Beldum is so nasty. She's blaming Vivian for everything, threatening recourse for simple and sometimes non-existent mistakes, gaslighting her and blaming Beldum's own screw-ups on her, calling her names to her face, not letting her speak. It's some really ugly stuff. This is all obviously in service of making Vivian a sympathetic character who the player will welcome into their party once Chapter 4 rolls around, but it's honestly so unpleasant that it makes these early sections of the game legitimately hard to sit through on repeat playthroughs. This is the kind of behavior that actual real-world bad people exhibit, gaslighting and targeted bullying and taking advantage of vulnerable people and stuff like that. This is a very realistic type of evil, and not the cartoony Mario kind. And it all around makes Beldum probably one of the most outwardly hateable characters in any Nintendo game for me. I know Vivian says she turned her act around at the end of the game, but I've still got my eye on her. Also, I've got no strong opinions on Marilyn. She's fine. And there we have it. This was just a short little fun video I wanted to make after I recently played Mario Galaxy 2 and realized how much I hated the Gearmos. I should stress, I know none of this is at all important or serious. I'm not losing sleep over these ones and zeros or anything. This is all in good fun, and I know we all love punching down on fictional characters to vent from time to time, so I hope y'all enjoyed either way. Let me know some of your most hated Mario characters in the comments below. Either way, thanks, hope y'all had a fantastic day before, during, and after watching, and I'll catch y'all later. Cheers!